So we put that at dive number 5. So that optional, the voluntary that's down here, the optional dive that goes along with that is up here at dive number 5. Then after that part, it's pretty simple. Then you go down to your, right underneath the voluntary dives that you did, and you put your optional dive that goes with that voluntary dive. So if you're doing a forward dive, as number 1 is your voluntary, number 2 would be your optional forward dive. If number 3 is your back voluntary, number 4 would be your back optional. Okay? So that part is simple. It's first getting down here, your group that you're doing 3 out of, then doing your voluntaries, and then putting your optional dive up here that is not there yet, because they all have to be represented, putting that up here so you know that all groups are represented in the first 8 dives.
Is anybody doing something called turbo dive?
This is written in the sheet, one of the sheets that you have. It's there for you to check it, but believe me, the coaches are there. We've been doing it forever. Once you do one, after you do one 11 dive sheet, it's fairly easy, right? It's the first time it's complicated and they freak out and they panic and think, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. But once you do one or two of them, it becomes fairly easy. After you fill the sheet out and you do put the DDs in, then your coach will look at it and they'll go through this checklist, which you have. I think you have one of them. There's a final checklist. And I just go down it with the divers and say, okay, are all 5 voluntary dives circled? Do the 5 voluntary DDs add up to 9.0 or less? Okay, because there's certain, your DDs for your voluntary dives have to add up to 9.0 or less. Okay, your DDs for your optional dives, if you're trying to qualify for state, have to add up to 11.5 for girls or 12.0 for boys. If it's a meet, the Clody meet, and you're not trying to qualify for state, you don't have that higher DD yet, then you don't have to worry about it. But if it's a state qualifying sheet and your diver's trying to qualify for state, then you need to add up the DDs and make sure that they're right for state. And that's all in this checklist. So what we do then is we go down this checklist, make sure everything's in the right order, voluntary sign. All 5 groups are represented in the first 8 dives. The group that you're doing 3 out of, that optional dive is down at the bottom. And you go through the whole checklist. After the diver looks through it, and the coach looks through it, and they're satisfied with it, and it meets requirements, then the diver signs, the coach signs. And if it is a state qualifying sheet, then you make sure that you have phone numbers and email addresses on here. Because the referee then at the meet will have to sign down here. If you do qualify for state, it gets sent into the state, and all this information has to be on here.
Thank you. I see that if you can't do the same dive, but is 201C the same dive as 201B?
Yes, very, very good question. When you're looking at this sheet, one of the checklists that you do, that I do, the first thing is I look down these 11 dives and make sure you have 11 different numbers. Okay, because a forward dive pike and a forward dive tuck is the same dive. It's just a different position, and you cannot do more than the same dive once. Okay, that's a great question.
Welcome to the Crown Valley Community Pool in Laguna Niguel, California. I'm Kurt Wilson, this is Kevin McMahon, and we're here with divers from all over Southern California to introduce you to the principles of judging one of the world's most beautiful sports.